Night Shiny. A new, scary story.
It started when Mark bought a new smartphone. Nothing special, just a device with a good camera for work. It had a feature called automatic group framing, which supposedly improved photos, adjusted lighting, and sometimes completed a shot if someone moved out of frame. For the first week, everything seemed normal, until he noticed something strange. In several pictures, there was a woman, someone he did not know. Not in every photo, but always somewhere in the background, slightly blurry, dressed in dark clothing, always looking directly at the camera. At first, Mark assumed she was just a stranger who accidentally walked into frame, but then he saw the details. In a photo taken in his kitchen, she stood in the doorway. In a photo inside his car, she sat in the back seat. In a selfie from the park, she stood behind him, even though he was sure no one had been there. So he deleted the images and decided to test the phone. He set the phone on a tripod, pointed it at a blank wall, enabled continuous shots, and walked away for a few minutes. When he returned and opened the gallery, on the third photo, the woman was there, standing inches from the lens, her eyes completely black. This time, she was not blurry at all. Mark took the phone back to the store immediately. The technician examined the photos, then looked at him without expression. "You're not the first," the technician said, "but this model doesn't have any completion features. It doesn't support advanced facial reconstruction." The technician leaned closer. "We wipe and calibrate every camera before sale. If the same person appears repeatedly, especially in locations where no one else was present, that isn't a problem with the phone. That's a problem with the person using it." Mark heard a quiet shutter sound behind him. He turned. His phone was on the counter. It had just taken a photo by itself. He opened it. The image was of him, and behind him, a hand rested on his shoulder. The file was automatically labeled "Recommended Memory." Mark dropped the phone. He left the store without another word. That night at home, he kept the lights on. He didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., his phone buzzed. A new notification, cloud backup completed, a new photo synced. He unlocked the screen. The new image showed the woman again, closer this time, face filling the frame. Her mouth slightly open, as if she had been about to speak. The caption beneath it read, "Remember this moment?" Mark deleted the photo. He emptied the trash. He formatted the gallery. The next morning, his neighbor knocked and handed him a printed sheet. It was a single photo taken from a security camera in the building's hallway, grainy, black and white. In the center, a figure walked past Mark's apartment door. On the photo, the figure's arm reached toward the door handle. The neighbor said quietly, "I thought it was you the other night. You look like you were asleep, but your door was closed." Mark checked his door. The deadbolt had been engaged from the inside. He has not left his apartment alone since. He still carries the phone in his pocket. He still takes photos because he can't stop checking the gallery. And every so often, when the light is wrong or the angle is odd, he swears he can see her in the background, looking at him, waiting for him to notice. He doesn't know how she started showing up. He doesn't know why the phone keeps making memories he never lived. All he knows is this: something in the pictures remembers him better than he remembers himself. It happened 3 months after Claire moved into her new apartment, a small, inexpensive unit at the end of a quiet hallway. She worked long shifts and mostly kept to herself. 2 weeks after moving in, she began hearing it, a soft voice coming from the apartment next door. At first, it sounded like someone talking on the phone. Nothing strange. Thin walls, old building, But the longer she listened, the more wrong it felt. The voice wasn't holding a conversation. It was repeating things, whispering them, slowly, clearly, like someone practicing a script. Claire didn't pay attention until one night, around 1 a.m., she heard the voice say her name, Claire. She froze in bed. She hadn't introduced herself to any neighbors yet. After a minute, the voice continued, whispering other phrases, things she'd said on the phone earlier that day, word for word. Claire forced herself to assume the obvious. Thin walls. Someone overheard her, nothing more. She went to work the next morning, tired but convinced she was imagining the worst. But that night, the voice came back, louder this time. "Don't hang up, Claire. Don't move. I can hear you breathing." Claire pressed her ear against the wall. The voice stopped immediately, as if it knew she was there. Then, a faint knock sounded from the other side. 3 slow taps. She stepped back. She called the landlord at 2 a.m. He sounded irritated, but agreed to check in the morning. When she woke up, she heard activity next door. Footsteps, objects being moved. She opened her door, expecting to finally see her neighbor. But the apartment next door was wide open, completely empty, unfurnished, unoccupied. "The place has been vacant for months," the landlord said. "We've been trying to rent it." Claire insisted she heard someone inside. The landlord shrugged. "Old buildings make noise." Claire knew what she heard was not random noise. That night, she left her TV on and tried to fall asleep. For hours, nothing happened. Then, at 3:12 a.m., her phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "You're awake." She dropped the phone. The message wasn't just creepy, it was familiar. It was the exact phrase she'd heard whispered through the wall the first night. She blocked the number. Then another message appeared from a different number. "Don't block me. I'm right here." Suddenly, the knocking returned. Not from the wall this time, from her front door. 3 slow taps. Claire approached the peephole with shaking hands. No one was there. Then her phone buzzed again. A photo, a grainy picture taken from inside the hallway, directly in front of her door. "Open up." Claire backed away, locked herself in the bathroom, and called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later. The hallway was empty. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. One officer asked if she lived alone. "Yes," she answered. He hesitated before speaking. "Then you might want to check this." He handed her a body cam still frame, taken moments before they reached her door. In the image, something stood outside Claire's apartment. A figure, tall, thin, with its head turned toward the camera. The face was blurred, but the mouth was visible. It was smiling. The timestamp showed it had been standing there exactly 6 seconds before the police arrived. Yet, by the time they reached her door, it had vanished, completely silent, leaving nothing behind. Claire hasn't returned to the apartment since. She still gets messages, always at 3:12 a.m. "You were such a quiet neighbor. Come back. We never finished practicing your name."
I've always been careful. I lock my doors. I park under streetlights. I live in what people call a safe area. That's probably why I ignored the first sign. It happened on a Wednesday night, 8:40 p.m. I left the grocery store and walked toward my car, keys in hand. I clicked the unlock button once. The lights blinked, but something felt off. The interior light didn't turn on. That only happens when a door is already unlocked. I convinced myself I must have forgotten to lock it earlier. I pulled the handle, hopped inside, set the bags on the passenger seat, and that's when I smelled it. A faint scent of cologne. Not mine. I checked the back seat. Nothing. The floor. Empty. Under the seats. Clear. I started the engine and drove home. 2 nights later, something else happened. I was leaving work, walking through the underground parking garage. My car was already unlocked. I knew for a fact I had locked it. I even remembered hearing the beep inside. Everything looked untouched, except for the seat. The driver's seat was moved all the way back, much farther than I would ever put it. I drove home with my hand on 911's speed dial. A week later, I told myself I was paranoid, exhausted from overtime, jumping at shadows. But then came the night that proved everything. The night I saw him, it was raining. Steady, cold, quiet rain. I left the gym at 9:17 p.m. and jogged across the lot toward my car. I clicked the unlock button. The headlights flashed. I opened the door. And the moment I sat down, the door behind me clicked shut. Not swung shut. Not wind blew it. It closed. It latched. Quietly. Someone had been waiting inside. I froze. My brain couldn't decide what to do first. That same cologne washed over me. Stronger this time. I didn't look back. I couldn't. A man's voice, low, calm, spoke inches behind my ear. You always park in the same place. My vision blurred. My hands shook so badly I barely got the door open. I ran. I didn't scream. I didn't look back. I just ran. Inside the gym, people stared at me like I was insane. The manager called the police. By the time they checked my car, he was gone. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry. Nothing. The file. The police asked if I had someone stalking me. I said no. I don't date. I don't use social media. I barely interact with people. That's when one officer hesitated and pulled me aside. We found something, he said. It was a phone, a cheap burner phone. On it, one folder, titled with my name. Inside were photos, taken over weeks. Me entering my apartment, me leaving work, me sitting in my car. Dozens, maybe 100, and one video. The video was recorded from the back seat of my car. The camera pointed at the rearview mirror. In the reflection, I could see myself, driving, completely unaware, and just behind my shoulder, out of focus, a man, watching me, breathing quietly, head tilted, smiling. The part I can't explain. The police took the phone. They said they'd run prints, that they'd review the footage, that they'd keep patrols near my apartment, but not a single officer would answer my one question. How did he get into my car every time? Because the truth is, they don't know. Or they don't want to tell me the locks were never picked. There were no scratches, no damage, no signs of entry. It was like he simply appeared. The ending that isn't an end. It's been 3 months since that night I moved across the city. I bought a different car, I installed cameras, but the cologne, that unfamiliar scent, still finds its way into my car, sometimes just a trace. Just enough, like a reminder or a warning. Last week I found a note tucked behind my sun visor. You parked somewhere new. I found you anyway.
These stories are too real not to be true. See you in new scary stories.